What's up, YouTube? Today we're going to be going over more matches from the Pointcrow and pChal Nuzlocke Invitational with another set from the winners round 1, which is going to feature Ludwig versus Ranboo. And if you don't know who I am James, and I'm not the best Nuzlocker in the world. I am not the best VGC player in the world. Unfortunately, I haven't won a world championship just yet, but I do have 10 consecutive invites to the Pokemon VGC World Championship and have several titles under my belt. And I also coach a lot of players from both the beginners to the World Championship level. And I somehow ended up as Ludwig's practice partner for this event. I didn't prep him in this matchup though. We mainly focused on the Ray matchup. But Ludwig was coached by one of my good friends, Mr. DRXX, and I'm pretty interested to see, because I don't think I gave him too much advice on this matchup, because I will get into the teams in just a bit, but this team is definitely one for the books that we're about to play against, so pretty interested to see how the matchup will go between Ludwig and Ranboo. But as a note before we get into this video, that I will say that this video is not meant to dog on the players and like go heavy on the criticisms in a mean-spirited way. That I'm not going to be like, oh, why did you make this play? This play is so stupid, or I can't believe you threw like this. But the idea of this is just as an educational resource, because I will be going over both players' perspectives and like calling out what's great about these plays and why they're great, and calling out the mistakes and why they're mistakes, and give the alternatives to them. So that is the goal of this video. And if any of the content creators do want to get better at competitive Pokemon and somehow end up watching this video, or any big content creators in general want to learn more about VGC, feel free to hit me up, because I will provide free tutoring, because I just love it when people do get into VGC, because I think this game has some pretty magical parts about it, especially from the imperfect knowledge game to the poker-like elements and the chess-like elements. So there's a lot that goes into competitive Pokemon, and there's a reason why I teach competitive Pokemon on this channel. So let's get started analyzing the teams before we begin the matchup. So let's go over the teams real quick. This is Ludwig's team, and he was coached by my good friend Mr. DRXX, and this is the team me, DRXX, and a few others did craft, and I thought it was just like a really cool team. It's mainly a hard Trick Room team featuring the Trick Room Primarina. If you don't know, this tournament, all the competitors ended up completing a randomizer Nuzlocke, and the team they completed the E4 with was the team they brought to this event. So that's why the abilities and the moves are randomized. However, the typings as well as the base stats of the Pokemon are not randomized. So we have this Trick Room Primarina, which is pretty strong, has Steam Eruption as the main water type move here, and it's really able to do a lot of damage and have a chance for burn. It is Volcanion signature move. Trick Room is really powerful. Surf for a spread move, because this Primarina has Grimnay, Spectre's ability, boosted special attack whenever Primarina gets a knockout, and can be a massive threat if it gets one knockout. Then we have the room service Chandelure with the Pixelate, which turns the Tri Attack, a normal type move, into a fairy type move, also powers it up a bit. Moongeist Beam from Lunala's signature move set, the Heat Wave for strong fire damage, and then the Decorate, which is a move that boosts the target's attack and special attack by 2 stages. With that room service, gives them -1 speed under Trick Room, and Chandelure does outspeed the Primarina outside of Trick Room. And in Trick Room, because of that room service, it will be able to underspeed, so it will be able to go before the Primarina, go for that Decorate into the Primarina, and that's the main goal of this team. You also have this very bulky Darkrai, which is really good against like the Dragapults of this tournament, and Metagross is as well, and it's one of the fastest Pokemon in this tournament with some really good disruption with Encore Electro Whip. Electric Seed with Dry Skin is also nice pairing, because you have this electric terrain. Dragonite with the Electric Seed. Again, this tournament had VGC like rule sets, but no item clause was included in this tournament, so you can have multiple of the same item if you're curious. With this Dragonite being really bulky, the Pollen Puff for recovery, the Dynamax Cannon for a really good hit, Breaking Swipe to lower the attack output of your opponent, and the Taunt, which is able to stop some shenanigans. This Altaria is pretty insane. It's like a budget Smeargle, has the Aroma Veil, the Chesto Berry to play around the spores, but Fake Out, Follow Me, and Wide Guard support is pretty good with Draco Meteor as a attack. And then finally the Rhyperior, which is pretty strong, and Ludwig was able to win one invitational tournament back in 2020 in the Dynamax format using Rhyperior. So this was the idea of him having something that was familiar to him with that Rocky Helmet for some chip damage, but pretty general standard moves across the board, the best moves that we could be able to teach this Rhyperior. So that is going to be Ludwig's team there. And then let's go over Ranboo's team, which is definitely an interesting one.
So I'd like to highlight, I asked some VGC players just some questions about this team, and I asked them, one of the questions I asked, like, if you had to give each team an archetype, which one would it be? And one of the VGC players told me, when I asked about Ranboo's team, and I quote, "I don't know, in-game team." We have some very
cooking.
This is Ranboo's team, and if you don't know, I'm actually the one who gave that quote to pChal, which was when he asked me what could I categorize this team as. I would say it's an in-game team. I don't know, there's something about like this team I could see because of the starter, the Pokemon that is not, well, kind of a legendary Pokemon. It's like one of the, you know, the trios in general, and then just like some favorites like Lapras and Dragapult and Gliscor. Like, I could just see it as an in-game team. Like, it has the patterns of it, because this team has no speed control whatsoever, and yeah, it's something. Ranboo was coached by Wacko, and when I DM'd pChal asking a bit about it, he says, yeah, this is so on brand for Wacko. So take it as you will. Now, does have to fake out Dragapult. This Dragapult is actually one of the slowest Dragapults in the tournament, and the Darkrai on Ludwig's side does outspeed, has fake out support, Astral Barrage, really strong ghost type spread attack, Focus Sash at least with Fleur Cannon, so it can do something. The Choice Band, Gliscor, Rockhead, and Braver, which is a pretty threatening combo. Earthquake when there is no Levitate, because again, it's a randomizer. So Yuxi that normally would have Levitate doesn't have Levitate. So the only thing that can stop it is going to be the Wide Guard on Muck, which makes it a very limiting option for them. The bulky Blastoise with Sheer Force, which can power up its attacks with Steam Eruption, Moonblast, Fire Wrath, and Volt Tackle, which actually does some pretty significant damage across the board. This Lapras, I have no idea though. The Toxic Orb Lapras, because it's Toxic Boost, giving it a boost to its attack damage output when it is poisoned, and you know, has Glacial Lens, Waterfall, Origin Pulse, and Mirror Coat. Yeah, I don't know, and yeah, that's just it. And then this Yuxi, which Hustle, it's really not a good ability. Like, it increases the power of attacks and at the cost of the accuracy. I think Hustle, if I'm not mistaken, only works on physical attacks as well, so it doesn't even work to boost up Side Strike and Pollen Puff. And then, like, at least it's a bulky mon with Decorate support, which is a big thing. And the one thing saving this team is going to be this, the Alolan Muck. It really is the one thing that's saving this team, because Alolan Muck is one of the best Pokemon in the tournament, mainly because of its great defensive typing in general. And it has really good strong movesets of Gunk Shots for the Primarina, the Sucker Punch Darkest Laria for the dark coverage and priority. Wide Guard's a pretty good support move. And Cheek Pouch is a pretty interesting ability because it doubles the effect of the berry. So you get 50% healing on the Muck basically, which is actually pretty threatening, because Ludwig only has the Rhyperior really that can really one-shot this Muck, unless you get like Decorate situations with the Primarina. So it is probably the one mon that's super threatening, especially off the Decorate of the Yuxi. But yes, this is the team. It has no speed control and is pretty slow for the most part, so it is definitely going to be an interesting one here. All right, so I did write down all the 28 theoretical matchups in a document for this tournament, as well as I did help DRXX with Ludwig's prep in general. I will say I did have some practice with Ludwig, but it was not for this matchup whatsoever, and I really didn't think about this matchup too much, mainly because again, this team probably hard to digest because it just has so many outliers if you are someone who knows much about VGC, because it doesn't really have the common tool set. But here's what I would say for a general overview of the match according to my notes, which is in Ludwig's favor probably, as Ranboo doesn't have any forms of speed control while Ludwig has two different forms. Darkrai is a big threat to Ranboo, and you also have to respect the Primarina as well. Ranboo on his side does have some options with the Alolan Muck and the Blastoise, as these Pokemon can do some pretty good damage thanks to their type coverage, while being hard to get rid of thanks to their good natural bulk and defensive typing, because Ludwig does have the best answers to get rid of especially bulky water types, especially that Blastoise that can actually hit like a lot of his team for super effective. If you're Ludwig, your win cons are just making sure that Ranboo doesn't get the opportunities to use Decorate, because the Blastoise can't get any knockouts initially, and make sure that the muck can't really punish you too hard. And the idea is just to win the damage trades. Darkrai is going to be big due to its disruption with its electro webs and its on-course, while being able to pollen puff heal and get some good damage with Dark Pulse. Rhyperior can be great if Blastoise is knocked out, or if he's able to find a knockout onto Muck first. Primarina can be in a good spot though. We'll still have to respect the Volt Tackle Blastoise. That Alolan Muck is definitely going to be a bit hard to remove, but you do have Rhyperior. You just got to set up properly, because it's hard to set up Trick Room when there is going to be that Alolan Muck. And then on Ranboo's win condition, I'd say he probably needs a bit more, but positioning the Blastoise and Muck to do heavy damage without taking too much in response. You can use Uxie to Pollen Puff heal and Decorate boost, so Blastoise and Muck can actually get the knockouts. Gliscor and Lapras can also be good in some situations as good counterplay to the Dragonite and Rhyperior, but we'll likely seeing the Muck Blastoise with Fake Out, Dragon Pulse support, and Uxie. That was my guess when I initially thought about this matchup, and again, I did not play Ludwig at all in this matchup, and I don't even think I did any test games on this matchup for Drew. I think I just told him like, hey, you just, oh no, wait, no, I did I actually beat Drew in like 1 or 2 games. It was mainly because he just let me get Decorates off with the Uxie, like it was an experiment, and yeah, like I guess it could be scary, but overall I do think that as long as Ludwig is able to position decently against it, like again, very limited tool set that Ranboo has access to. So let us actually get into the games and see how it went. Lapras Gliscor lead? What? Okay, here's the thing about Ranboo's team. It's like so far from like a conventional VGC build. And again, I was told that Wacko, it doesn't exactly have the most experience with VGC. So this is kind of like the dark horse of where like there could be expectations that are just not brought. And that's kind of the thing here, where I think like it's hard to predict this team. That's what it was like difficult to. Because even when I was piloting it, like DRXX was using the Ludwig team, I was using the Ranboo team during scrims, and like yeah, like I was playing it very differently, but this is definitely a strange position. The lead that DRXX could for the Ludwig matchup, which I was like okay with. I wasn't a big fan of it. It was good against any Uxie lead, but it was like kind of weird into like everything else on the team, and unfortunately like no Uxie lead makes it super weird for Ludwig. Is a problem is he's about to get overwhelmed by this offense, so let's see if he can play out of it, because I don't think he's prepared for this lead at all. And to be fair, it's like really hard to prepare for this team when you don't know like what your opponent's idea is, if they have an idea. So we see the Gliscor and the Lapras lead, and let me just say, I thought Lapras could be an adjustment, but I didn't actually think it would be brought. I didn't think it would actually be brought. But we'll see. Like my idea for the original lead was going with Darkrai Dragonite and just going for E-Web Breaking Swipe, because since the Lapras is physical and you have an Electro Steel on a Dragonite, after a Breaking Swipe the Lapras actually doesn't do that much damage. You can actually solve with Pollen Puff, and you still have pressure on the Uxie with Dark Pulse and the Breaking Swipe, and it also like shuts down the Muck from doing much damage with the attack drop. So that was my initial plan in this matchup, but DRXX changed it a bit. This Gliscor though, I never brought in scrims, because the thing is the Gliscor's only ground coverage is Earthquake. It does have Rockhead Brayber, which is pretty strong here, because Ludwig doesn't have a flying resist other than Rhyperior, but and it's a switch to Rhyperior, which Ranboo doesn't have access to, but I would probably kept him back. But I mean, it's gonna be hard for me to predict this one. Like I think we're in for a wild set. Ludwig is definitely struggling on timer. I don't know why you try attack here if you're Ludwig, because Moongeist Beam is just a really strong ghost type move, same type attack bonus. You do get the Pixelate boost with Tri Attack, but it's just like not that strong compared to like a Moongeist Beam, so it's not even the same type attack bonus. So it goes for the Dark Pulse into the Lapras, as he goes for Self Earthquake. He's crazy. It just KOs the Chandelure as the Glacial Lance comes out. Yeah, that was not a great turn on. That was not a great turn one. Granted, to be fair, I have no idea. Did he show his back? I don't remember if he showed his back. Toxic Orb activates because it's toxic boost. Okay, so he didn't really have many plays that he can make here. He had Primarina and Rhyperior. Nothing switched into Earthquake. So I think if that's the case, I think you go for the Dark Pulse flinch into the Gliscor. Unfortunately, like this lead and not in the back. This is kind of why I like the Dragonite, because it was like a ground immunity to the Gliscor just in case. Like the thing is, Ranboo's team doesn't have a other ground immunity other than the Gliscor, but they did have a Alolan Muck with Wide Guard, which was a thing that could avoid. That's why I really like the Dragonite combo. But yeah, this is really tough for Ludwig. It's already hard to predict. I think you do have an out though if Ranboo messes up. I mean, he already went for Earthquake into his partner, which was, I mean, it worked out. It worked out on the Chandelure and you got a double knockout, but I think you actually do have a chance if you're Ludwig. Because the Lapras, I don't know what moves you're going to go for here. But if I think your play is to hope for that throw. Because like, again, kind of like in the Fuslie matchup or the Fuslie versus Connor thing, you're put in rough situations where you kind of have an out if your opponent throws. So it's not over. Your hope is that Ranboo stays in, goes for Self Earthquake to knock out the Lapras, and then you trick him up with the Primarina and do whatever Rhyperior realistically. Otherwise, then you just hope that like maybe he goes for Origin Pulse and misses the Rhyperior as the Gliscor switches out, and that's also another win con you can go for. So you have like two different win cons. Like if the Lapras goes for Waterfall into Rhyperior and if that KOs, it's just game over. But like, let's see if that actually happens. Going for Steam Eruption, you kind of need the speed advantage because the problem is you're outsped by everything on Ranboo's team now, which is the awkward part. Going for the KO into Lapras. So the thing about, I think, Ludwig, because he was in France for like the entire week leading up to the turn, which is unfortunate because that's like the only week that Bears had to like actually practice against teams. So he had notes from DRXX and he watched replays, but the thing is, these were definitely not in the replay docs. And I think once, you know, like something broke expectations, then he's kind of lost and trying to just scrambling to maneuver, which of course is just like a hard thing to actually get used to, because you need a lot of like just general VGC matchup experience to actually like, you know, start, you know, being flexible. It's like this one of the skills of a really good player, but unfortunately like it's really hard to have that for most of these players who have only been playing for a bit. Ludwig does have more VGC experience than the rest of the players because he's actually played in more creator tournaments, but yeah, it's not something that's like easy to pick up without like constant practice. But yeah, I think because you go for Steam Eruption plus attack in the Lapras, like I think you just guarantee lose. And he did actually stay in, so he actually Earthquake knocked out his Lapras. If he Trick Roomed, he actually I think might have won here. Yeah, I think he actually won here. It depends on Ranboo's back, but like he gets a double knockout, but who Ranboo has? I'd assume it's Blastoise Muck in the back because those two Pokemon are just so good against Ludwig's team. Grimnay for the special attack boost, because you also want to keep the Gliscor around on the field, because the thing is the Gliscor is like if you keep the Gliscor on the field, like then you can threat to the next turn for the KO after Trick Rooming. So that's why I think Trick Room was always just your best option here, because you had slow Mons. Now you're heavily damaged and can't do anything. So we're gonna see the Muck and the Blastoise Dragapult. Okay, yeah, that makes sense too. I think it's Astral Barrage Dragapult. So I think this game is 100% over. I mean, no, it's not over because it's Gunk Shot on the Muck. So go for Gunk Shot miss, I suppose. I think if you Trick Room here, you had a great spot, because if you Trick Room, actually there, I mean, you still have to hope Ranboo throws, because let's say Ludwig went for Trick Room because the Lapras went down, Rhyperior got damaged with Rock Slide. Then it's like, okay, if Muck comes out for Ranboo, you just high horsepower, hit high horsepower. If you hit high horsepower, KOs the Muck. You Steam Eruption the Gliscor, it's good game. If Ranboo sends out the Dragapult so you can go for self fake out Earthquake, and fakes out the Primarina, you just hope for Rock Slide flinch or maybe Stone Edge crit knocks out the drag or the Gliscor after you went for Rock Slide. You should have went for Trick Room Rock Slide, I think, the previous turn. So like there were outs. I don't think it's like guaranteed outs, but I think you had a really high chance of winning if you went for Trick Room. But unfortunately, Ludwig didn't go for Trick Room and now has to prey on Gunk Shot Miss here. If he gets a Gunk Shot Miss, he actually does win the game probably, because then he can high horsepower the Muck, assuming that Rhyperior lives the turn, and then go for the attack. I think if you're Ranboo, you have a guarantee. If Astral Barrage KOs the Rhyperior, you go for Astral Barrage plus a Gunk Shot, but Fake Out and Gunk Shot is fair because you get 2 turns. But yeah, the Gunk Shot missed and high horsepower went into the Muck and KO'd it. It was actually a win for Ludwig, but yeah, unfortunately, not enough. Actually, yeah, you needed the Gunk Shot miss, but again, it might have come down to Astral Barrage hitting the Rhyperior too, because if Astral Barrage knocks out the Rhyperior from spread, Astral Barrage, if Primarina is still on the field, then I don't know if Primarina lives the next Astral Barrage. Although it did have Citrus Berry. No, it didn't have Citrus Berry because it consumed it, right? That might have still been cooked anyway. I think there was a line for Ludwig, which was Trick Room again on that one turn and pray for the throw. Ranboo did go for the one option that did actually give him an out here. And yeah, so that's on Ludwig's side. If you're Ranboo, you probably should have kept up tempo. Like you should have probably just went for Waterfall into the Rhyperior and switch out to the Gliscor so you can maybe bring in Dragapult so you fake out, start stalling out the Trick Room turns. But yeah, that was, I mean, that gave Ludwig some openings, so he can adjust. Let's see if he'll adjust. All right, game 2, Lapras Gliscor again, and okay, I respect this lead. It's going to be the Lapras Gliscor lead again versus the hard Trick Room route on Ludwig's. I'm not a huge fan of this combo against this team, but I think it's fine here, because the problem is if Ranboo ever adjusts and brings something like Dragapult plus a Alolan Muck, Fake Out Gunk Shot is, you can't stop it. You can't stop it. So yeah, we'll see how this goes. But kind of curious. They do fake out to the Gliscor, which is the safest play because that Brave Bird would threaten the Prim. Glacial Lance probably gonna knock out the Altaria. Yeah, it knocks out the Altaria, but that's fine. Primarina took absolutely no damage and you get Trick Room up. So that was like the best play by both players. Like maybe what Ranboo could have done was like switching the Dragapult on the fake out, so you had fake out active this turn. But like I think like it's still a fair play. It's a bit awkward for Ranboo now because we're gonna see the Chandelure come in. I think that's fine. Yeah, that's fine. You want to decorate sweeps as quickly as possible, so yeah, this is fine. You can go for Decorate and you can go for Moonblast into the Gliscor if you're Ludwig. Yeah, you probably want to set up the Primarina because a +3 Primarina is what you need to Oko Muck with Steam Eruption. And you also want to make sure you have pressure with +3 Moonblast potentially into the Blastoise or knocking out the Lapras, because you would get +3 from the +2 from Decorate and then KOing the Gliscor slot with Steam Eruption. I don't know why Heat Wave's being considered. Try Attack is definitely the worst option here. Like if you're going to attack, at least go for Moongeist Beam. Like Moongeist Beam into Lapras and Steam Eruption also isn't awful, but it's like way less ideal. He's going for Steam Eruption and Gliscor, and I don't remember what the Chandelure did, but we'll see. I don't really like the Heat Wave. You could have also Moonblast if you were going to go for Heat Wave, because you did risk like 2 misses, but yeah. Let's get the Grimnay boost at least with the Primarina. Origin Pulse going to come out, which for Ranboo, that's... The thing is... This is why the Toxic Orb is throwing me off, because I have no idea what the calcs are with Toxic Boost on the Lapras, which boosts its attack, but I'm pretty sure Waterfall KOs the Chandelure. The Origin Pulse maybe just to get some chip on Primarina, but I think you want to put up the pressure and get knockouts. I think if you're a Ranboo, Waterfall was probably the better option there. But yeah, that doesn't work out. The Lapras is weakened at least, so it might go down to Moonblast. I'm not 100% sure on that. Are we going to see the Muck or the... Okay, we see Dragapult again. Okay. So the Dragapult has Fake Out, so I actually respect that. It does have Focus Sash. Going for a Heat Wave to break the Sash. I guess that's fair. Yeah, that's fair. You can then go for Moonblast Rock Slides. I guess that's fair. I would definitely want to break the Sash on Dragapult regardless. Like, any attack in the Dragapult's pretty reasonable here. Now you want to decorate? I don't know if the decorate's gonna work out here. Because the thing is, the Fake Out's coming out from Dragapult. The Lapras gets a KO. I guess it's fine if you hit a Rock Slide, but yeah, this might still be fine regardless. Like, it's probably not... Okay, Heat Wave. Yeah, that's fair. I would have probably preferred just Moongeist Beam in general just to make sure you don't miss. Because the Lapras is already in range of like Moonblast or Rock Slide anyway. Oh, and yeah, that's exactly why we don't go for the inaccurate moves on the Sashmon if we don't have to. Origin Pulse is going to take the knockout into the Chandelure. Granted, this is still a fine position for Ludwig. He just can't afford to miss the Rock Slides. And he should have enough Trick Room turns to be able to win this game, I'm pretty sure. He should just be able to go for Rock Slide Moonblast here. Rock Slide... Oh, he doesn't have Rock Slide, right? Why did I think he had Rock Slide? I mean, this is... Actually, no, this is bad. Why did I think he had Rock Slide? I thought he had Rock Slide. No, I keep mixing up Earthquake and Rock Slide. No, this is bad. No, this is bad. Yeah, you actually couldn't... Yeah, you should have Moongeist Beamed earlier in general. Or, like, decorated the Prim earlier. Because now it's very dangerous. You double up the Dragapult because it Muck Switches and you get the Moonblast. So that is technically, like, the better play here. But I think maybe the better play was to get rid of the Lapras so it doesn't get this Origin Pulse off. I mean, Lapras does go down this turn to the Toxic. I think it comes down to Steam Eruption KOing the Muck, and I think it could be a range. Because I think +3 guaranteed, and I think +2 was kind of a roll. I think it was in Lud's favor, but I'm not 100% sure. There is one more turn to Trick Room, so the Muck comes in. Primarina is +2 special attack. You got to go for the Steam Eruption and hope you land and hope you get the KO, or you're just hoping for a Gunk Shot miss at this point. Moonblast will not get the KO onto the Alolan Muck at +2. You have to Steam Eruption. Okay. Steam Eruption, it connects and that KOs the Muck. Yep, okay. So Ludwig stays alive. There wasn't the best decision of targets under Trick Room. He could have tried to push the advantage a bit more, but you know what? He does take the win, even though it was a very, very scary spot to be in. A very scary spot. I know DRXX is sweating. I know that man's sweating, man. That man is sweating right now. Let's see if Ranboo adjusts, because if he thinks Ludwig is going to lead the same thing again, a Dragapult plus Altaria lead would go crazy there. Even a Uxie lead would actually be pretty good. Again, the Decorate Pollen Puff stuff is actually really good against Ludwig's own team, because with the Muck, it puts on a lot of pressure, and the Blastoise especially is really hard to get rid of. So I would love to see like something like Dragapult Uxie or a Uxie plus a Blastoise. So let's see. But yeah, barely lit by the skin of his teeth. All right, let's see. Game 3 adjustment. Ranboo does make the adjustment of the Dragapult and the Muck versus the Primarina and the Altaria. This is very bad for Ludwig because Fake Out could go out into the Altaria and then a Gunk Shot can go into Prim, and then that would be devastating for Ludwig. So yeah, this is not easy. This is not an easy spot, I'd say. I mean, if you're Ranboo, you can Fake Out either slot. You can Fake Out the Prim if you want to, but then if you Fake Out the Prim and trade Fake Outs with Ludwig, And then the problem is, then I think Altaria lives any attack from the Dragapult. Assuming no crit, follow me, and then gunk shots. So I think your best play is always to fake out the Altaria and just go for gunk shot and hope you don't miss. You do have, if you're using gunk shot, I mean, you basically are just hoping that you do land the attack. This is just really awkward for Ludwig. What are the options that you have here? Pray for gunk shot miss. You could go to Rhyperior, I guess, for Primarina, since it shouldn't take too much damage here, but I think that's, I don't really love that because I think the setups for Ranboo later on actually get very devastating because you're going to play Rhyperior outside of Trick Room. It's good against these Pokemon, but the thing is Ranboo has several water types in the back that are just going to murk the Rhyperior, and if you don't get rid of the Muck before the Rhyperior goes down, it's really hard to get rid of the Muck. Okay, but we're seeing Draco Meteor into the Dragapult and Rhyperior. Are you hoping for Fake Out plus Gunk Shot? Ooh, it was into that slot, which, I mean, Draco Meteor does come out into the Dragapult. I mean, that was a good turn for Ludwig on the turn basis. So that was a really great turn. Again, turn basis wise. But long term, I don't know if that's actually going to impact, because the problem is he did get rid of the Dragapult. Great knockout, right? It was kind of a dangerous spot. My issue is here, Ranboo now gets a free switch in. It's actually funny because I do think Fake Out was probably better than Altaria, but now it actually becomes a better spot for Ranboo because he lost the Dragapult, because now he gets a free switch into one of his water types to threaten the Rhyperior. Like, if Blastoise comes, well, now you'd probably want Lapras. Did you bring Lapras again though? Like, did you actually bring? That is Lapras, isn't it? Well, you know what? Even though Lapras is just a weird bring in general, it works here because you have Origin Pulse threat and you have Waterfall pressure. So this Lapras is actually putting in a lot of work because Ludwig has to guess between Wide Guard and the Follow Me. So Ranboo has a few, like, you kind of gotta get this option right, because if the Muck goes down, it might be game over. So he has to get this turn right. Ludwig is gonna Follow Me here. Did he Origin Pulse? Sucker Punch is not the play here if you're Ranboo, because Sucker Punch doesn't do anything unless he went for Sucker Punch Glacial Lance. But the thing is, Ludwig's either going to Follow Me or Wide Guard. Both make Sucker Punch invalid, so it doesn't, so Sucker Punch would never be a play you should make here. You should always just like Gunk Shots, maybe even switch out the Rhyperior. That also makes sense, because right here it's Sucker Punch didn't get you anything out of turn, but Lapras move is more important here. So let's see. He did get the read right. Origin Pulse, it dodges. That's Altaria. Yeah, that's Altaria. So Altaria, the dodge doesn't matter on Altaria. The Rhyperior is the big one. And yeah, as you can see now, Ranboo has a lot of pressure. I don't remember what the speed tier is between the Muck and the Lapras. I want to say the Lapras is slower than the Muck. If the Muck is slower than the Lapras, it's really bad for Ludwig, because you have a Glacial Lance Gunk Shot pin into Primarina, because it will bypass the Follow Me option from the Altaria because you knock it out with the Glacial Lance. So you gotta hope that Muck is faster. Muck has to be faster than the Lapras, which I think it is, and you have to Trick Room. But as you can see, like, even though like Ludwig got the turn, he was just put in such a bad spot, right? Because the Rhyperior getting knocked out didn't, or the Rhyperior didn't getting knocked out means it's still a huge threat to the Prim. And yeah, okay, so the Muck is faster and gets the Gunk Shot off into the Altaria, as Glacial Lance going to take the knockout into the Altaria, pick up the knockout, and the Primarina still takes a decent amount of damage. Actually, that was like almost 33% off that toxic boosted Glacial Lance. But Trick Room goes up. Now you have to go for the roll here. You have to go for Decorate plus Primarina and Prey. I mean, if you're Ranboo, you might have outs, but I think it's super unlikely. I don't know if Uxie lives a +2 Steam Engine. If it's Uxie in the back, you can try. But yeah, otherwise you go for the roll if it is a roll. And then if you have Blastoise, you could switch in Blastoise 2 on the Muck. I don't know what Ranboo's last Pokemon is. If Dragapult was alive, you could it could come in, but yeah, stays in. Decorate comes out into the Primarina. Steam Eruption into the Muck, takes the knockout. Okay, so I don't know, I think it's a high chance to KO in Ludwig's favor, if I'm not mistaken. And then Grim Name, which means it's +3. Okay, Ranboo, you gotta liquidation the you gotta liquidation the Lapras. The thing or liquidation the Chandelure with the Lapras, or not liquidation, Waterfall with the Lapras, because now Ludwig has 2 attackers available to him, so you're in really bad shape, unless Waterfall doesn't KO, but I imagine with Toxic Boost it does. I'd imagine that would allow it to KO. Our last Pokemon is Gliscor. Okay, so even if like Ranboo sacked, it didn't matter because none of his switches took the Steam Eruption. He had to pray for Steam Eruption dodge or the roll, I think. So not much he could do there. Now Ludwig has a pretty safe win con here. You can go for... You have a few different ways you can win this. I don't know why you're try attacking when Moongeist Beam does more damage. Why are you try attacking? The Lapras doesn't have ability like Heat Proof, right? I'm like no, it's Toxic Boost. Yeah. Goes for the try attack into the Lapras. I mean, if you're gonna attack the Lapras, just go for Moongeist Beam, because Moongeist Beam would have KO'd here. You do go for the Surf, which I think is fine because you don't risk the Hydro Steam miss. Moonblast would have also probably KO'd the Gliscor at that range, so you could have Moonblast and Moongeist Beam, or Surf is fine. If you went for Moongeist Beam, or even if you went for Self-Decorate, I think that would have KO'd. Origin Pulse, I think Glacial Lance was better there for Ranboo, but at this point, like, even then, like, you had to go for Glacial Lance crit and hope that KOs, and I don't even think that was enough. The Lapras just goes down here, and that is a good game. So, scary, I think, for Ludwig, but I don't think it was too bad. I think Ranboo just didn't bring the tools he needed. I think he needed Blastoise and or Uxie. I think Lapras was fine. It actually put on more pressure than I expected in that matchup, but like, oh my goodness, the I don't know if I would bring Gliscor. Like, Gliscor worked out game 1, but it's just like didn't really do anything otherwise. So yeah, like if we look at the team, like I think Dragapult is fine. I think Muck is good. I think Lapras is okay. I just would have preferred probably seeing Blastoise or Uxie for like pressure, because Blastoise was like a really good mon, I think, in this matchup, and it was just never brought, which I thought was like super shocking. And I do think Decorate Uxie, but as I said before, like sometimes, like depending on the coach and depending on the pilot, like different lines will be accounted for. So yeah, it was not accounted for here. And that is the match. That game 1, I mean, this team was just super unexpected. I actually found out later that apparently, like, it was the plan was for their game 1 from Ranboo's side was to troll basically at the start and then go start serious mode with like the Dragapult Muck situation, but he just ended up obliterating Ludwig's lead off the start, because the lead for Ludwig was not really that great against Gliscor, and I really didn't think Lapras was actually going to come. But yeah, there were situations where Ludwig could have played out, especially on a throw, and he could have actually won the game. For instance, game 1, as we saw, if there was a Tricker Mangle, and sometimes you do have to go for the throws. Unfortunately, Ludwig didn't see it. Game 2, he was able to play well though and get the win pretty cleanly. And then game 3, which was, as I mentioned before, I do hope that at least you do see the angle of my argument, where even though it was like a really good call turn 1, got really into awkward positions afterward, and yeah, it could have it won the turn basically. I don't know if it would have won the game, because he had to lose his Rhyperior. He could have taken like really heavy damage across the board before some weird mind games, especially with the wide guard follow me situation. But yeah, like I think overall, at least Ludwig did at least, you know, showcase better, especially after that really rough game 1, because sometimes when you go off course and you have to steer, because I don't think that was probably in Drew's matchup plans, like yeah, it can be pretty difficult, but at least he was able to maneuver it. And the game 3 play, it did look pretty good, and it got a really good turn, and thankfully it did work out in the end. So that is going to be the match. If you do want to see more matches from this invitational, let me know, and let me know which one you want to see next in the comments down below. And if you want to learn more about VGC, as I mentioned before, that I do a lot of content on this channel, especially showcasing really cool teams and strategies that we don't commonly see or are able to actually place well. So make sure you subscribe to the channel for more VGC content as always, and I'll catch you around next time.